Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Conversations on Civilization. In this series we're going to be talking a bit about Zakat, and Zakat, the third principle of action in Islam. Islam, the teaching left to us by Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the last in that line of prophets, starting with Noah to Abraham to Musa, who we call Moses, to Isa, who we call Jesus, and to the life of Muhammad himself. We have some simple practices that we've talked about. The Shahada, that is bearing witness to one God, just one God, one Creator for all of creation, that same Creator that all wise people worship, who is connected to our very heartbeat, who instigates and motivates our very being, every cell in our being. That is the Creator, the all-knowing and the all-wise. His Prophet Muhammad left us some simple practices, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We want to continue talking about those practices, particularly focusing on Zakat. And today we want to talk about Zakat as a principle of action in the context of North and South America. We want to touch on some points so that our viewers and our questioners can raise their questions and perhaps have a little more enlightenment regarding the practice and the benefits of Zakat. Okay, we know that Zakat, by definition, is that money that we give in the name of God, in the name of Allah, for doing good at the masjid, at the community organization. And that Zakat, what makes it Zakat, by definition, is that you are seeking to do what the word means. In Arabic, Zakat means to purify. To purify. And the other definition that's given for it is the money you give in the way of God to help those who need it. Now, the Quran is very clear. There's a very precise group of people who that money has to be distributed to for it to be considered Zakat. Your intention has to be Zakat when you give it. And the principle of what it's used for, it says in the Quran very clearly, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of God, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful. وَآتَى الْمَالَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ ذَوِي الْقُرْبَى, and bring money out of love for God, for ذَوِي الْقُرْبَى, that is the near relative who's in financial trouble, وَالْيَتَامَى, and that's the orphan, of which even Prophet Muhammad was an orphan, وَالْمَسَاكِينَ, right, those people who are poor and just destitute and in need, وَإِبْنَ السَّبِيلِ, and those people who travel in the land, teaching the word of God, teaching the teachings that the prophets left. You can help that person as they traverse through the land. And وَالسَّائِلِينَ, those who ask for Zakat, come to the masjid or to the church and say, hey, listen, I'm really in trouble. I need some help. We can extend Zakat to them. وَفِي الرِّقَابِ, and we can extend Zakat to those people who have been captured, believers who have been captured for political reasons or imprisoned. We can go and bail them out, or have been captured and sold into slavery. We can go pay their way out and get those people free, or people who are imprisoned and became Muslims and they live an upright life. We can go and use Zakat to get those people out of captivity so that they can live freely in the earth. So those specific purposes of Zakat, right? For the near of kin, for the orphan, for those who are traveling in the way of Allah, for those who've been sold into slavery or in captivity and they're upright believers, we can get those people out. These are the express uses of Zakat. So, that money given for that purpose and then used for that purpose establishes Zakat. And over again in the Holy Quran, it says very clearly, Salat and Zakat, Salat and Zakat, Salat and Zakat. I dare you to find instances when Zakat is spoken of and not paired with Salat. Okay, here's a point here that we don't want to miss. And the point we want to stress is Salat is calling on your Lord for good, for yourself, and those you care to try and help. Zakat is the doing. One is the theory, one is the practice. Okay, now let's get to the point of today's talk. And the essence of it is this. We come from a tradition in the West. Many people who become Muslims in the West, or who were Muslims but have lived for a long time in the West, have lived and practiced things before they became Muslims a certain way. What I'm presenting to you today is very simply this. Your traditions from birth become habits of mind. So many of us who came to Islam from the church or from the synagogue. We come with those practices in mind. We come to the masjid, we give some wealth. In the church, very often that gift, that money that you give, there's no express purpose for it, so you come and you give it. In fact, the tradition of Western Christianity generally is built upon those same principles of monarchism that spread across Europe. Culture informs one's practices, okay? And in the Western tradition, the church played a certain part, a huge part in the life of most people, and certainly in the case of African Americans, a huge part of the organizing principle, etc. So we come to the masjid and we treat the idea of charity as if we were in the church. What do I mean? I mean the zakat that we do, very often we come with the intention to do zakat. We give the money in zakat, but we don't say precisely how it should be used because we haven't yet learned that. We think we've delivered that charity, and surely Allah knows what is right and who is given charity and who hasn't, and Allah will bless you for that. But now we are also obligated to act charitably with knowledge, to do zakat with knowledge, and that is how the giving of money and the word purification, that's what the nexus of those terms are. There's a purification process that begins to happen that cultivates the individual and therefore cultivates the physical community of people, and thereby does the magical act that traditionally known, what we traditionally call magic. We elevate the quality of the values in that community in practical ways. People want to live in a community where the people that live in that community are charitable, where the poor are looked out for, where the weak are cared for. People want to live in that community and they will pay to do so. The value of the property goes up, the value of the houses goes up, the value of the very real estate itself improves. But only if we practice the principles clearly and correctly. You can see very well that giving money and having that money be used to buy a new car for somebody or to invest in some real estate at the masjid, all of a sudden now the masjid's in the real estate business. We have to buy a car for the imam. These are not the purposes of zakat. That's sadaqah. And in some instances we should spend money to help the imam with transportation, right? If we have seniors, there should be a seniors home for them. But that is not zakat. That's sadaqah. Those things must be done. One day I'll be completely gray-headed and I'll need a place, a senior citizen's home. So of course we want to build such things. But that's business. That's not the first three principles of Islam, or the fourth, or the fifth. That's business. Should be completely outside of the masjid. And now that you have this population of upright people who practice charity and sharp-mindedness, the discipline of charity, and we'll take just a minute to talk about that. That's how you cultivate the people who will realize that they need a senior citizen's home. They need to build a school for the children. And those people will get it done because they are truly people of principle. But to create those people of principle, who will get their business outside of the masjid and put it in the world, we have to follow the simple practices. We have to purify. We have to do salat and zakat. Purification by using your wealth for the stated purposes of zakat. That's how we create an evolved group of human beings that become reliable, so reliable that in fact, even in the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the criminals would try to get the Prophet to protect their valuables. The reliable people are the people whom everyone relies upon. So you see, as we create value in ourselves and raise ourselves up and purify ourselves by giving in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and following the example of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we see that we improve, we become more purified, we become the pillars of the communities that we live in. So zakat is purification. Zakat is using wealth to accomplish that purification. And that's the essence of our talk. Now there's just one little turn that you have to be aware of. And it's alive in me and you and anyone else raised in the Western religious tradition. That is the American Christian religious tradition, the Judaic religious tradition. We give charity, but it's not zakat in that tradition. My parents were considered themselves Christians. My father, all his life, and taught us all he knew, gave in charity, but it was not zakat. May Allah forgive his sins and rest his soul. It was not zakat. It was charity. And the zakat is an established principle, and there's a difference. The difference is how it is used. Okay? We need to understand that the habit of the church, we have to leave at the church. We have to leave at the synagogue when we come to the masjid. And we must practice the simple practices in these 5 principles of action, things we must do. The shahada, the belief in one God, salat and zakat, and then the fasting of Ramadan, and once in our life, the pilgrimage to Mecca, inshallah, if we have the wealth to do it with. Zakat, zakat, zakat. Properly executed, establish salat, the Quran says. It didn't just say make salat. It says establish salat. And we have done that in the Western Hemisphere, in masajid in every major city in the Western Hemisphere. Certainly in North America and the Caribbean. And we're pushing on into South America. And praise is due to Allah. We have established salat. We must simultaneously, that is at the same time, establish zakat. Establish it. To establish something is more than just doing it every once in a while when you feel like it. Establish zakat, so that the poor and the destitute will see the mercy of God in the world. And we will be the managers to see that that is done. And this is what the prophets, this is the message they all brought. From Noah to Muhammad, this is the same message they brought. The message of peace, the message of El-Islam, the message and the practices that we needed in order to establish the noble and upright way of peace and reverence for God and humanity. And I thank you for taking time to listen to these few words, and I look forward to your comments and your emails, and I will try and respond to as many as I possibly can. I am your brother, Muallim Abdul Alim El Amin, and I bid you Assalamu alaikum.